Redfall wasn't just a bad launch, it was just a disappointed Xbox exclusive. It became something much bigger because 1 year after release, the studio that made it was shut down. Arkane Austin, the team behind immersive classes like Dishonored and Prey, was gone, so what happened? How did one of the most respected studios in gaming fall this hard, and was Redfall
that's ever gonna happen?
Today we're breaking down the full story, development, disaster, backlash, and a closure that shocked the industry. Before Redfall, Arkane had a reputation. They weren't chasing trends, they weren't building live services, they were building immersive sims. Arkane Austin in particular had built Prey 2017, a game now considered as a cult classic. So when Xbox acquired Bethesda in 2021, Arkane felt like one of Microsoft's most valuable creative assets, and then came Redfall. At the 2021 Xbox and Bethesda showcase, Redfall was revealed as a co-op open world vampire shooter.
Take a look at this brand new original game from the Arkane team at Bethesda, the studio that created Prey and Dishonored. Arkane created something new for them, an open world immersive shooter that you can play alone or with your friends. And like Starfield, this game will be an Xbox exclusive.
This didn't look like Dishonored, it looked like closer to Borderlands or Far Cry. And immediately, some fans were confused. Why was Arkane making this? Redfall actually began development years earlier under ZeniMax. At the same time, the industry was obsessed with live services. Executives wanted recruiting revenue, engagement, monetization. Arkane Austin was reportedly pushed toward creating something with multiplayer and the long-term team support. But here's the problem with that. Arkane wasn't built for that. They were built for more single-player systemic experiences, not ongoing content, and eternally, the morals started flipping. By the end of Redfall's development, reports suggest that roughly 70% of the team that shipped Prey had left Arkane Austin. Now, that's a really massive drop for the team, and the company and games will not sell as well because there's not a lot of people on that team no more to help out with making future games for the company. Now imagine trying to build an AA multiplayer shooter while losing the majority of your veteran developers. New hires were coming in, leadership was shifting, the game's direction kept evolving. Some developers reportedly even hoped Microsoft might cancel or reboot the project after acquiring Bethesda, but that never happened. Instead, the game pushed forward. When Microsoft finalized the Bethesda acquisition, Redfall's PlayStation version was canceled. It became an Xbox One exclusive, and that means a lot of pressure on the game. Redfall wasn't just another release, it was polished as a Game Pass showcase title, and that is very bad looking on the company's side of things. Because let's be honest here, if the game could push to the Game Pass, then you know that the game was horrible at this point. Now it became a symbol of Xbox's future, and experiences skyrocketed. But behind the scenes, the build wasn't ready. Redfall launched on May 2nd, 2023, and within hours, the problems were everywhere. Enemy AI stood still, vampires glitched through walls, textures failed to load, performance were inconsistent. The game lost at 30 FPS on Xbox Series X, and this wasn't a small indie team. Critics described it as shallow, repetitive, and unfinished. And the phrase Arkane fall from grace started trending everywhere on social media platforms. But the bugs weren't the only issue. Even when Redfall worked, it didn't feel like Arkane. The open world lacked systemic depth, still felt undeveloped, mission design were repetitive, enemy variety were limited. It felt like a studio trying to make a game outside its DNA, and the identity crisis was impossible to patch. Developers openly acknowledged the rocky launch. But here's the harsh truth. First impressions matter, and Redfall's reputation was already cemented. Player numbers dropped rapidly, momentum was gone, just a lot going on in the franchise of this game. Then, 1 year later, came the news that stunned the industry. Microsoft announced it was shutting down Arkane Austin. Not restructuring, not downsizing. Now, Redfall would receive one final update. A planned DLC including additional heroes, promise, and premium editions was canceled. Refunds were issued, and that was it. Just like that, Arkane Austin was history. The reaction was immediate. Developers across the industry criticized the decision. Fans blamed corporate mismanagement. Some argued the studio was pushed into making a live service title it never wanted to build. Others said Redfall simply failed to meet expectations. Either way, the closure felt bigger than one game. It felt like a warning. Arkane as a brand still exists through Arkane Lion. They're currently developing a Blade game for Marvel, but Arkane Austin is gone. Some staff moved to other teams, some left the industry, others are starting new studios. Redfall remains playable, but it's effectively frozen in time. No expansions, no major new content, no future roadmaps. Before Microsoft even entered the picture, Redfall was already in development under ZeniMax. All around 2018 through 2019, the industry was obsessed with Destiny, style engagement loops, recruiting revenue new models, cosmetic monetization for every game. Publishers even wanted stability. One-time $60 releases weren't even enough. ZeniMax reportedly pushed Arkane Austin toward building something with multiplayer hooks to long-term monetization potential. But Arkane was not Bungie, it was not Ubisoft, they were not built for seasonal pipeline. When Microsoft purchased ZeniMax for $7.5 billion, expectations shifted overnight. Redfall suddenly became an Xbox exclusive, a Game Pass filler, a showcase for Microsoft's first-party future. The PlayStation version was canceled, now the pressure doubled. Now here's the critical corporate layer. Game Pass isn't about selling one game, it's about subscription retention, monthly active users, engagement metrics. Now a game like Redfall fits the subscription model perfect. Co-op, replayable, multiplayer driven. Even if reviews are mixed, engagement matters a lot, but that's a catch. Live service games require continuous content, stable player population, long-term roadmap investment. Redfall launched without the foundation to sustain that ecosystem, which meant it could have fulfilled the Game Pass strategy. And when a subscription title fails to retain players, its value drops rapidly. Reputation is everything for mid-sized creative studios. Arkane wasn't known for massive sales, they were known for trust. Suddenly, even future Arkane projects were being viewed skeptically. The brand equity built by Dishonored and Prey eroded almost overnight. And Microsoft noticed that because brand perceptions affect subscription signups, investor confidence, and platform loyalty. Now, Arkane tried their best to recover everything that was going wrong with their game so they can get customers and people to buy the game once again, which they was doing things like major patches, offline mode added, performance improvements, and quality of life changes. But the developers acknowledged missteps publicly. But in the subscription era, momentum is everything. If the player count drop early, the aggro buries the game more and more down into the hole. Redfall never recovered the critical mass from this. Then came May 24th, Microsoft announced the closure of Arkane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games. This was not small restructuring, it was cost realignment. Microsoft cited a need to prioritize high-impact projects. So if the company game doesn't drive engagement or major sales, is vulnerable. Redfall became the symbol of that vulnerability. Important nonsense, Redfall alone didn't cause the shutdown, but it represented a failed tragic experiment, a loss of customer trust, a misalignment between studio identity and corporate decision. Arkane Austin had no second project in active production. It didn't have a hit in the pipeline, and in the post-acquisition cost, the cutting phase. Infrastructure often burns out quickly. Redfall fits into that pattern. Now for Xbox, Redfall came at a sensitive time because Starfield had more mixed emotions than you ever could think of. Game Pass growth, hardware sales lagged behind PlayStation. Redfall's fair reinforced the narrative that Xbox exclusives lacked polish, even if it's not fully fair. Behind the headlines were developers, designers, artists, programmers, people who worked years on a project that didn't land. Creative ecosystems vanished. Arkane Austin wasn't just a studio, it was a community. So did Redfall destroy Arkane's reputation, or was it the result of a larger shift in corporate priorities? Maybe it was both. Redfall wasn't just a bad launch, it was the collision of creative identity and industry trend chasing. A studio known for immersive storytelling, trying to survive in the age of live service and losing itself in the process.